All right, so they're waiting for us to get started when it says broadcasting. We're in. Great. Hello, everybody. I think we are live. I'm really excited to be here today for everybody to talk about the rise of connected TV advertising. And we will spend a little bit of time defining what exactly connected TV means for those of you in the room who may not be sure, which is probably and should be everybody because there's a lot of ambiguity around that. Before I get to my fellow panelists, introducing myself very quickly, I'm Mike Fisher. I run the advanced TV practice at Essence and Group M as well. We're one of the largest ad agencies globally, but in North America as well. And my team focuses on the convergence around television, moving away from reach-based television buying to a more audience buying, real-time buying, and focus on the importance of connected TV. And I'm very excited to be joined today by panelists who come from the connected TV and converged video, media data, and tech ecosystem, and who I actually have the pleasure of knowing all of these people because they sell to me and they sell into my clients. And this is a very interesting panel to be moderating because we're going to keep it somewhat conversational, talking a lot about, what we as an agency at Group M and other agencies are looking for and what the solutions that everybody on the panel has for my clients. So I will go around and I will call on my panelists in the order that I see them here and allow them to give a quick introduction. We'll start with Marnie.
Hey, I'm Marnie Rommel. I am Vice President of Business Development here at Beachfront. And what Beachfront, if you're not familiar, is we are a sell-side ad server built for convergent TV. My role specifically is working with securing inventory on behalf of Beachfront to monetize and ad serve and mediate for our clients on that behalf, in addition to what we're doing in the convergence of TV space and securing partnerships with those media buyers, media partners, and publishers.
Alden.
Hi, I am Alden Kay, Director of Advertising Partnerships at Philo. Philo is a virtual MVPD, so we're a linear TV streaming platform with content from programmers like Paramount, Discovery, A&E, AMC, and Hallmark, to name a few.
Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Barrett. I am the head of Programmatic at LG Ads. I oversee revenue on the LG ad side from our agency partners such as Group M, as well as our brand direct programmatic partners. And what we do is we're the OEM. We own 30 million US, 130 million global smart TVs that have been bolted to a living room wall. We understand all the data from an ACR point of view. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that. And inventory in those TVs, and so that we can reach audiences with a data-driven strategy.
And Rob.
Hey everyone, Rob Christensen. I run Vivo's connected TV ad revenue and manage all of our distribution partnerships globally. Vivo, if you're not familiar with us, we're a joint venture between Universal Music Group and Sony. And in short, we are the new age global music television network.
That's great. So very quickly, we'll go around the room and we'll go around the opposite way this time. Rob, why don't you, through the lens of Vivo, describe what CTV is and how you guys are, building content for it?
Sure. So, what CTV is, we could be here for quite some time, right? But ultimately, for us, it's a brand. It's a new opportunity to effectively bring music videos and music television back to the living room. And I think a lot of that is at the heart of, looking at search technology converging with the living room and the smart home in real time. It's given many of us incredible opportunity to republish, really great content sets. For us, or for music videos in general, they were born in the living room over 41 years ago. It's hard to believe that, over 4 decades, but we observed a rebirth for music videos, generally in the AVOD and on-demand space, through mainly our YouTube partnership that was born over a decade ago. And during that time, we observed, obviously, our content being watched in many different ways, starting on desktop and then a massive shift to mobile. And in the last 4 years, we've observed a massive viewership change from mobile and desktop back to connected television through things like our content on YouTube's app and smart TVs. And from that point, with the proliferation of smart TVs and the fast landscape, new ways technologically to bring content to global television sets, it's been amazing for us to take advantage of that borderless opportunity. And I think that's important for our content and our content rights also. It's truly borderless. We're not just dealing with, one country and one set of rights. So it's been fun. Our content has a tremendous draw. The artists we work with that create our videos are amongst the biggest, if not the biggest stars in the world. So there's rabid fan bases, invest a lot of time and money from a production value. Real art form that we've been able to curate and publish linearly for fans around the world. And lastly, publish based on platform audiences and interests. I think networks historically you have a one-to-many broadcast opportunity, but for us, leaning in with partners, learning about their audiences, and in a way, kind of being able to program addressably to make the content that we surface the most interesting as possible.
It's great. Katie, through you come from an interesting side of the business where you guys own the hardware and the operating system. Talk to me a little bit about what CTV means to LG.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think about the ecosystem that we live in, the smart TV or OEM, which is what we refer to ourselves as, we're this main intersection today between content delivery through that TV and consumption. And it's, the glass that has been bolted to the living room wall and the permission that's been granted to us via our solutions. And so what that means is we own 22% of the smart TVs here in the US, and that is making us really hard to ignore. We start and think about the consumer. And I think, everyone on this panel that probably is where we, as being that way to reach to the consumer, really start to think about things. But we start with what's happening on the device, and what we're seeing from a CTV point of view is that's starting to change. So the first major shift that we saw in CTV, I think we're all aware of this, happened during the beginning of the pandemic when audiences converted at a extremely fast rate from linear to streaming, mostly in subscription on demand environments. And now what we're seeing is like the next wave of that transition where people are moving from SVOD to AVOD. And I'm sure you're seeing this on the Vivo end as well with your fast environments. Our fast environments, which are LG channels, are providing consumers with what they want. They're cable-like free experiences. We have over 350 channels that are available in both, live and VOD. And viewership of these channels has increased to 47% in Q3 alone. We're expecting this trend to really continue as we move into 2023, especially as the recession looms, where paying for content when you have quality free content at your fingertips seems like, a pretty easy decision. And so, when we think about where we sit in this CTV experience, this is allowing us to provide better experience for viewers, but also for marketers such as, the folks who are on the phone. We're able to do create global opportunities on the biggest screen in the home.
Great. Alden, you guys, Philo's in an interesting position where you're not producing your own content, but you have everybody else's content across the entire TV ecosystem. How does that play into your approach from an ad sales perspective?
Yeah. So to your point, we're a virtual MVPD, which means that we are bringing together, that same, the same programmers, the same content that viewers already know and love. I think when we think about CTV, it's TV. It's we see audiences sitting back and watching sort of in the same way. 98% of our viewing happens on the TV screen. 85% of that is in live linear. We see, our subscribers going into the channel guide, choosing what they want to watch in real time. In terms of, the thing that I think is different is sort of on the back end, the way that we're delivering that. And then, the implications that has on the ad side. From a delivery perspective, we sort of like to say that people love TV, but they typically hate their TV provider. And so we would like to provide, an alternative experience where we are, to Katie's point, like incredibly focused on the customer experience. And that goes from everything, from the fact that we offer, an industry leading 12-month unlimited DVR. We've built our entire stack, our SSAI and our transcode from the ground up to really be able to provide a holistic and seamless experience on the back end. We have, 24/7 live support. So if people have an issue for whatever reason, they can talk to a human and resolve that. On the ad side, we are 100% addressable. Every single opportunity and every single break and every single pod can and is served a unique ad. And we'll talk about, the way that we sort of represent that in the market a little more, because we're like extremely leaned into programmatic. But another thing that I would say about what we're doing in terms of, the ads and how we bring that to market now is that even if you had asked me last year what that looks like versus now, it has changed considerably in that, a year ago, the majority of the dynamic ad insertion that we were doing was on behalf of the ads that we, Philo, were selling. Now we are replacing more than 80% of all of the available time on our platform, not just on behalf of Philo, but also on behalf of our programmers. So where we were getting a lot of sort of like national pass-through ads, we really are able to sort of like scale this concept of addressability across everything. Last year, or in the past year, we've served nearly 20 billion impressions. So it's kind of amazing to think about how, similar the experience is potentially from a subscriber or customer standpoint, but then how different it is in terms of what we're able to deliver. And I think with the goal of being able to improve the ad experience, not just from the perspective of what, our advertisers and agencies needs are, but also from the perspective of the customer experience.
That's great. We're definitely going to come back to that addressability comment because I want to dig in there a little bit more. But Marnie, you're the only person on this panel who doesn't either own content or distribute content. You're in a totally different area of the ecosystem. Some would say it's just as, if not even more important. So talk to me a little bit about, from the back end, what is Beachfront doing to really redefine what connected TV looks like and what it can do for clients like me?
So we are really focused on the convergence of all the different formats, right? One platform that a client like yourself could go to help and plan campaigns and, across all the different formats, taking the TV dollars and putting them programmatically into our ecosystem. In addition to that, it's making sure the user experience and the consumer experience is still clean, and we're giving our clients the experience that they expect from a TV environment, and the deduplication, the competitive separation, really handling that with our proprietary library, and making sure we're yielding the highest revenue for our clients, right? Unifying that and having a mediation layer to really be able to handle the bids and make sure we're adhering to all the creative blocks, and in addition to the creative separation and everything, and also, like I said, the highest yield. So I'm trying to think what else, if I missed on anything. No, really just making sure, consumer experience, and also getting you the data that you need in real time programmatically, and being able to target the audiences that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you look at these, who's on this panel right now. And hopefully everybody realized that when we did the quick intros and round, you have me as a buyer, you have Marnie as the back end ad server decisioning engine, you have Alden as a content aggregator, you have Katie as both an aggregator, but also the hardware distribution and measurement. And you have Rob as a channel that can live in all of those environments. And I think, the five of us, and it looks like our sixth speaker has been able to get on with Brian. I just saw his face pop up. So we'll allow Brian to introduce himself once his video starts. But all of us on this panel. Hello, Brian. You made it. Oh, we don't hear you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
There it is.
Can you
Yes.
hear me
Yes, we solved the tech challenges.
Hey, after two computers Awesome. Well, after 2 computers and a couple downloads of some new Firefox software, I eventually ended up getting on via my mobile phone. So I think all you guys being in the digital space will get a kick out of that. But
We were just talking about how advanced technology is. I guess we start that.
But yeah, so Brian, you want to introduce yourself for everyone in attendance, and then I'll ask you the same question that we had just gotten through with these guys, and then we can dive into our discussion guide. Yeah, so you want to do an intro? Did we lose you?
He looks like he's frozen.
Looks like he froze. All right, we will get back.
Yes.
Oh no.
Claire broadcast. You know, we're a, sort of a.
Yes, we got you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
I don't know if you can hear us.
All right, great.
Oh.
Great. So, stations, 100 markets.
So we've lost Brian. Let's have the back end people try to get him back on. We'll dive into our conversation discussion guide while we're waiting. So Alden, back to what we were talking around about national addressable systems, that have been traditionally challenged for the operators themselves to deploy because of technology limitations, being a completely IP delivered streaming virtual MVPD service. You mentioned, you actually beat us to it and mentioned a little bit. Here's what Philo is able to do, not just for marketers, but for publishers themselves. You want to talk a little bit more about, what Philo is doing to really allow the true television networks that are distributed on the platform to monetize addressable?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're basically allowing them to treat their inventory the way that we treat our own inventory, right? So we are passing along requests out of our SSAI for opportunities within their content. All of those requests have, privacy compliant signals associated with them. So, IP, device ID, we're passing along, contextual signals, and those are actually things that we're getting directly from the programmer, from Grace Note, the signals that we use to populate our channel guides. So that would be, genre and rating and different sort of contextual signals. And they're basically able to take those requests and then, fill them with either direct demand or programmatic demand as they see fit and push that back to us. And then we put the pods together with a combination of their ads and our ads. But it's basically taking the entire stack that we have built for ourselves and being able to help our programmers leverage that as well.
That's great. And that really, from a buy side opens up a lot more supply to be addressable, right? Like traditionally we would have to only look at the 2 minutes per hour that a cable operator was able to make addressable because there's no real way to nationally enable addressability at scale. This makes the whole 14 to 16 minutes per hour of ad time in a linear environment look more like what we're buying in impression-based CTV. So it definitely opens up that ability to fully deliver against scaled audience-based and targeted buys. Brian, I see you're moving, so it looks like on the camera. So it looks like we have a better connection. You're on mute though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. So let me do just a quick intro. I have been listening though diligently to all these conversations, and at Sinclair, we're a large media company. We've got 350 different websites. In the connected TV side, we've got obviously the Bally Sports piece with that property, but we also have News On, and News On has been an interesting property because in that case we're a publisher, and it's actually the number 2 news app on all of Roku, and we're on other distribution platforms. So in that case, we're able to really scale local news in a connected TV environment because we have not just Sinclair, but 15 other, broadcast station groups. So, one of the challenges sort of from a publisher side in connected TV is the discovery, right? How do you actually find these apps? There's like something like 2,000 apps on, Roku. And so, to that end, we've been able to sort of aggregate all of that together and do it at scale. And then on our station side, we've got Compulse OTT, and that's something that we've got roughly 1,000 salespeople between the RSNs and our stations, and that's a property that is basically an advanced ad platform. We own our own DSP, and while we may not have enough inventory to deliver in local zip codes, we go out and buy other inventory through, our DSP. We own our reporting platform. In fact, Alden, we buy, Philo and other, publishers. And then, our sales reps in places like Boise and Little Rock can go out and sell that. And we've got, about 6,000 campaign lines a month going through our platform. And half of those are in zip codes in places like, Boise, Idaho. So we've been able to deliver CTV at scale, but also in local geos. So, we, are sort of by heritage an old broadcast company, but we've certainly been able to, advance into the rapidly growing, as I've heard all you discuss, CTV space.
That's great. Rob, music videos, didn't expect them to be as commonplace, especially in a TV environment. But you guys have really carved out not just a niche, but a true destination source for all things music. Talk to me a little bit about your approach and why you guys believe and have proven that music videos still resonate, especially in a linear channel environment.
Yeah, for sure. I probably touched on a little bit of this earlier, but I think the theme there is, what's old is new again. It's a rebirth of a content set within a screen that has really just taken advantage of the technology that's allowed us to resurface and recurate the content. I think that we continue to prove value to the labels and artists that we work very closely with as they continue to produce the content. The promotional value of the videos are really important. And obviously now it's our job to not just maximize that promotional value, but also the commercial value, which is new really for the last decade for the label. So, we do that within AVOD and FAST environments. And as I said, we publish our channels globally, and we have a really good opportunity to increase our distribution. Evo, for the first decade was very reliant on YouTube, and they're an amazing partner of ours, but we're also now live on 33, I believe the number is, platforms across the world. And just gives us a great chance to have new homes for the content that our artists are creating.
Yeah, that's one of the important things that we think about as a buyer as well. We don't want to buy a specific publisher on a specific platform. We want to make sure that when we're buying premium scaled connected TV, we're able to buy it across the entire reach.
Yeah.
The Vivo example is we don't want to go to Vivo and say, hey, we want to run, in this streaming app on this TV, we want that full reach. People don't have multiple free ad supported streaming services. They they tend to utilize one or the other or whatever comes built in their TV. Katie will, which Katie touched on and we'll get to in a bit. So having mass reach for fast channels is in my opinion, critical to be able to get that scale and reach.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, what you just said, you don't want to buy it that way. We don't want to sell it that way. Our partners don't want us to sell it that way. There's a world where networks that are really well distributed can act as a one-stop shop, not just for multiple platforms, but more specifically, the opportunity to own a genre of content. Right? There's a content play here, ad adjacency, brand safety, all that type of stuff. And it's tricky, right? There's a lot of platforms, there's a lot of emerging networks in the space, and so we all have to work together to figure out what the right media mix model is in that in these new environments.
Yeah, I mean, ad adjacency and contextual is important. Katie, you guys not only have that distribution, but you also have ACR data. You want to talk a little bit about ACR data and how that plays into matching ads with content?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about ACR, so ACR stands for Auto Content Recognition Technology, which basically means that it's technology that's been embedded of the glass of the TV that understands everything that happens across that TV. It's literally screenshots being taken every, half second that is then matched back to both an advertising and content catalog. And so what that means is we can understand all of the content that hits that TV, and we're able to then use that to pair it with the inventory on our TVs as well as our first party or identity graph on all of the other devices in the house. And I think, when you think about this ACR space, I've been in it since 2016, and the technology has changed and it's, continued to advance. But I think the biggest interesting move that happened in this space was the one that happened a couple of years ago, where ourselves and a number of other smart TV manufacturers decided to make our ACR data only available on our deterministic footprints, the hardware footprints, that is. And what that does is it ensures the fidelity of the data sets with little overlap. And what that means, for the advertisers, we know we're not modeling, we're not guessing what's being watched or not watched in those households. And so we're thinking about this now as really having a direct to glass strategy. And I think a lot of the things that we're talking about in this group fall into that strategy. And the advantage when you're using direct to glass as a starting point is you get this full picture. So you understand the viewing habits in linear, the viewing habits in CTV environments, and then we can really use those viewing habits to make a really great connection with the consumer. And so it could be based on the genres they watch, movies, sports. Sports viewers aren't all the same. People who are heavy March Madness watchers are not necessarily heavy NBA watchers. News enthusiasts. I know a lot of people don't want to be around news these days, but you can still target news enthusiasts. Gameplay. And then again, I think the most important use case to date for ACR technology is, have you seen or not seen my commercial? And what we're really starting to see is this growing amount of households that fall into a category of what I like to call bothers. Those people who are watching both linear and streaming. I was just talking with someone about our recent data points. Only 4% of our households only watch linear TV. Then there's 45% that are watching both. And then there's another 50% that are streaming. And so, what using ACR data allows you to do is to help manage optimal reach and frequency in the multitude of environments that are coming to consume this content. So advertisers can find net new audiences, but they can also manage the ones who are not seeing your commercials enough or seeing them too much. So that light TV viewer who mainly has linear TV and only watches sports, finding them in an AVOD environment. Or, my favorite folks who are those linear TV viewers, I like to call them the linear supply path contingency, that is known as the heavy TV viewers, that are eating up the bulk of linear TV impressions these days. And so to really understand that, you have to have a direct to glass strategy, and you understand the complete picture, not just linear or streaming or what you see in the DSP.
Yeah. I mean, Marnie, this one, is in my opinion, fairly aligned with what Beachfront's doing, especially around the convergence perspective, because you guys are taking, an approach to not only be a connected TV SSP, but also looking at linear and addressable. You want to talk a little bit about how you guys are using data to better target whole household viewers who are watching a little bit of streaming, a little bit of addressable, a little bit of linear, and then pass those signals to us?
Yeah. So what we're, like you said, what we're doing is trying to converge it all together, right? So there's issues in CTV, there's issues in TV, right? So the CTV, we're seeing, issues in CTV, we're seeing the deduplication, competitive separation, making for a real clean user experience, right? And what Beachfront has is a proprietary ad library, right? So what we do with that proprietary ad library is we transcode, we unwrap, and we then target the ad, tag the ad as a unique ID. And that way we can actually know what creative that is, and if it's coming through another partner that you're aware that maybe it came through a different name, a different agency, and be able to then tag it and run that ad and know that it is truly a Pepsi ad, and another Pepsi ad won't show, or whatever example there. And then in terms of the convergent TV pieces, we're really getting different signals, right? It kind of goes to the future of what what the future is of let's unify all of this data. How do we figure out how to unify the data? How do we have a unified taxonomy? Because it's getting kind of messy with all the different platforms and really converging. So that's something Beachfront is trying to solve for and work with our partners.
That's great. Brian, over to you. Let's talk a little bit about like how the sales models evolved. Local station groups historically have had local sellers focused on specific markets, targeting, local businesses, local clients. You guys actually, as Sinclair, were one of the first to say, well, wait a second, we have national reach, we have a national footprint. How have you guys been able to capitalize on the desire for, to bring together local markets to a national footprint? And what are some of the strategies you guys have deployed to not just enable that, but to elevate your sales team and how you guys work?
Yeah, so I mean, we, sort of by heritage are local, and let me, I guess, start with the local piece first. So, all of our salespeople sell, not just, of course, the linear that they represent, whether it's their station or their RSN, but we actually call our salespeople marketing consultants, and they represent, 25 different digital products. Obviously, CTV OTT is sort of a big seller lately, but everything from mobile geofencing to, direct mail to email, they have all sorts of different tools at their disposal. On a national level, we have a group, Sinclair Net, that's been able to aggregate together all of our linear stations and sell that as sort of a footprint against Nielsen's NTI, that's more traditional linear. And of course, on a national digital level, we sell, programmatically across our entire footprint or direct to an advertiser or brand. And if you add up all of our websites, we reach something like 59% of the US. And if you include our total reach with CTV and all of our digital properties, we're something like 91% reach. We've got literally a billion ad impressions, a month. So we've got tremendous scale. And for certain advertisers, we're able to do that. We've also got a integrated content development team. So, we can work with certain personalities and really sort of, hyper amplify an advertiser's campaign across all of our assets. We can integrate that into sports, news, entertainment programming. So it provides a really sort of big offering. So the national piece and the local piece are, obviously different groups that we're selling to, but the back end sort of delivery and mechanisms are more or less the same.
Great. So Rob, on the flip side, you guys have primarily been digital, and now you guys are going after that share of, we would call it premium television quality content dollars that my clients have. What are some of the things that you guys have started to do to position your content more like television?
Well, there's a lot of different answers there, but ultimately for us, we have been rather upfront heavy, despite the screen over the last, I would say specifically the last 5 years, maybe 6 years. So that model has really just continued to shift into what, ends up being the television upfront. I think for us, that's been very audience based, very, historically, like your basic buying demos, right? And I think for us, there's a lot there that we can splice and dice, but frankly, it's become a lot more sophisticated than that, right? We have to deal with things like addressability and programmatic guaranteed data. So it's changed a lot about what we've done because of that level of sophistication. So we've just worked with many partners out there to help us build out the best, and it's, by the way, it's not done. We're still doing this, but build out the best group of solutions that we can around data. I think one of the challenges for a publisher in this space when you work with a lot of different distribution platforms is the consistency of the data that you do get back, how you can utilize that, how you can represent that. So it's important for us to work with third parties to create clean rooms and also use the info, which is really valuable info that we have from over a decade on YouTube around things like, user habits, interests. If they like this, they also like that, working with those recommendation engines to help us, create the best opportunities in market outside the upfront. I think a lot now, we go through the upfront and we have to be a lot more sophisticated in quarter, and all of those different things do come into play. So especially as we see growth in connected TV viewership. We always say it's like, how do you minimize the amount of unsold airplane seats in real time? And so that's what we're really focused on right now for each and every pod that we run is this optimization, which is very different than what a traditional TV upfront looked like and in quarter scatter.
Yeah, it's funny that you use the airplane seat example. For years, the television industry used like the stock market example.
Yeah.
They were trying to maximize the return on the value of something. But a couple of years back, somebody, and a lot, actually more than somebody, but somebody in particular at a conference started talking about it, and then everyone jumped onto it. It's not maximizing a share price for an impression or for the buy side getting the best value. It is a finite thing. If it doesn't, it is an airline seat, it is a hotel room. Yep. You want to maximize price for it, but at some point it's going to expire when that impression needs to air, either in linear or impression based. Yep. And we've seen technology, on the programmatic side, especially, really push the industry forward there, allowing for better value derivatives to happen in near real time and determine exactly what that impression is worth to the buyer, what that impression should be worth to maximize to the seller and create a better ecosystem. Yeah,
and the important thing there, all that, completely agree. The important thing is there are a lot of impressions out there, right? So, and they aren't all premium. But even within the ones that are premium, your impression has to stand up to the one next to it in a real-time bid and look attractive, right? So that's more, in some cases, that's more than just content. It's the data that you can layer on top of that. And that's where the sophistication comes in. It's, we're beyond the days of just straight up insertion orders, and then you go in and you book it, and then you report on it, right? So that's been evolving, as we all know, but especially in this space when we're dealing with the opportunity that all things connected TV has provided. It's been a challenge, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So pivoting a little bit, pretend that it is 18 months from now, and we're doing this panel again. What do you want to see? Like, what is exciting all of you over the next 18 months that's going to be relevant to the industry? We'll start with Marnie.
I kind of touched upon this earlier, but unified taxonomy. I kind of want to see unified taxonomy. I also want to see things evolve in terms of programmatic strategies, right? I think PGD, PMP, Deal ID has really been the focus in the forefront for some time, and I'd love to see us evolving that and more into a convergence space. And then the last one to touch upon that is more convergence, is more partners coming into the platform and utilizing one platform to provide all of their inventory or all of their media buying, all of their dollars. And really trying to converge a space, because I also think it's important to remember, like, that all helps us as users, right? The consumer user experience is very important, and we just want to consume all of this when we're consuming our content, whether it's we're the 4% on strictly linear or the 55 strictly on streaming. We want to be able to see it all in a clean ecosystem.
Alden, what about you? What's 18 months from now look like for Philo?
Yeah, I think I want to sort of dig in a little bit on that unified taxonomy piece and standardization, and we can talk about it even from the perspective of, contextual, where, we're passing through certain signals. We've had partners ask us, are you going to pass the IAB category? The IAB category wasn't created for CTV. We don't have pharma content that was created for websites. And so starting to get to a place where we are sort of all speaking the same language, and that language can be, targeted on in a unified way. We can make that sort of measurable in a unified way. So I think that's something that's really exciting. Also for Philo, just expansion. Something that we've done recently is actually we have launched on Samsung. We had previously been entirely on connected devices, and something that we're looking at now is, we know that we kind of want to be where our subscribers want to watch TV, and to the extent that there are people who want to watch TV on connected TVs rather than using the connected device, we basically want to be able to serve Philo to them and have them watch the content they love on Philo wherever that is. So I think we are, excited to be able to do that and to continue to expand and offer that same level of addressability and measurability on the ad side across the ecosystem.
Katie, what about you?
Building on what Alden said, I think we're going to see a lot less dongles, pucks, and sticks plugged into TV. When I started at LG a year and a half ago, 17% of our TVs had a Roku in it. Now it's 4%. So, we've seen that go down drastically. I think you're going to see more people watching ad-supported video on demand. And what I would really like to see personally is I would like to see, the coming together of more. There we go. Coming together more both linear and programmatic. Someone once said, and I think it's a pretty good adage, that it's never going to happen until linear buyers learn technology and programmatic buyers stop being afraid of reps. And so if we can bridge that gap, I think maybe we can get there.
Rob, you're up.
I think for Vivo, expanded distribution for sure. I think there's tons of opportunity out there still. This past week, we had a few big milestones for us, mainly or most recently launching on Hulu Live for us. I think the virtual MVPDs with live TV services are really awesome opportunity for us. So tracking our performance there. We also launched on Freevee last week, and there's more to come here in the first quarter. So expanding distribution. Of course, I think the way we program, whether it's licensing, continuing to create new originals like our series Lift and Discover and our original live performances, there's ways that we can better try to super serve, if you will, audiences on each platform. We know and can't assume that the Roku audience, for example, is the same as LG, is the same as Philo, et cetera. So we need to lean into that, both geographically and also from an interest basis. And then I think the last thing, Brian mentioned it earlier, just the content discovery ecosystem is really difficult. So, being a needle in a haystack at times, I think is definitely difficult to get what you're curating and publishing viewed. So we have our ways of, trying to get around that, but we'd love to see user interfaces be more friendly from that perspective.
And Brian, 18 months, where are you guys?
Well, so two sort of paths there. I think the measurement piece is becoming more and more interesting. A couple of speakers mentioned ACR technology. There's different sort of players that are in that space. Obviously, we're a broadcast company by heritage and still make a considerable amount of revenue in that sort of traditional linear TV space. And, for forever, Nielsen's been the currency there. And, I think if you look at NBC's, moving off of that onto an sort of an iSpot measurement, whether it's iSpot or it's another sort of technology player, you're seeing more and more, willingness to sort of move off of that traditional currency. And I think you'll have more movement in 18 months. And it's sort of critical that as media buyers, right, can't get the right, traditional trips and grips that they've always, gotten, because, those viewers are still watching TV. They're just watching in a streaming environment. It needs to be an omni-channel measurement where you're measuring CTV and OTT with linear TV. That's sort of a critical component. I do think that's going to happen probably in maybe not 18 months, but 24 to 36 months. It's coming. So we're definitely sort of working with a lot of folks in that space. So that's one. And then the second thing, sort of something we're working on is, and we've seen this a little bit in political, is if I put on my O&O hat with programmatic, we've got a lot of, billion programmatic ad impressions. We reach a lot of people, right? And it's passing more identifiers in the bid stream. So whether it's live ramp ID, whether it's, Trade Desk 2.0 identifier, or, TransUnion's, whatever they're calling it, Fabrique, and so we're beginning to think that we're going to need to pass more and more identifiers, because a lot of tier one advertisers, your Walmarts or Procter & Gamble's of the world, are going to basically just send you, here's 4 million ramp IDs, go ahead and serve as many of your ads, your people, to these ramp IDs. And that's the way that I think media is going to get bought, at least at the tier one level, digitally in the future. So we're starting to think through how we're going to do that. There's the whole cookies going away piece, but this sort of fits into that whole kind of identifying your viewers, space, and then anonymizing that with some kind of identifier that people can buy.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things that are super important to us as buyers, obviously. So we are at time. Thank you guys again for joining. I think this was a great discussion. Given that we're all working in the same space and we're all augmenting each other's offerings, and it's an audience-first approach. I love this conversation, and hopefully we do get an opportunity to, 18 months from now, come back together and really realize the promise of what connected TV brings to buyers and viewers alike. So thank you, and thank you to everybody for joining.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Mike.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Bye.
Yeah.